Back with another Bond review, and today we're talking about Goldfinger. And yes, I did review this, but I wanted to go back and redo the review and kind of take a little bit more time, not rush through it. But yeah, Goldfinger is a great Bond film, and it was great to go back and rewatch again. Now, to quickly recap, Doctor No, it was a fun, solid start to the franchise. It laid the groundwork, and it was a good debut for the Bond character. From Russia with Love, again, I say it's decent. More for the second half of the film. That's where the film picks up for me. The first half, to me, is not the most engaging. It's not the most interesting. Then I get it's more of a slow burn. It's more of a serious Bond film. And it catapulted Sean Connery, so, I can't take that away from the movie. And I give credit to the second half. I give credit to Robert Shaw. He was a great villain. And the third act had some good bits of action, but, from Russia with Love, again, it's not a favorite of mine. I say it's decent. But when you get to Goldfinger, this is more of my favorite. And in fact, I would say it's my favorite Connery Bond film. And I know a lot of people say that, but there's a lot of components here, a lot of elements that come together in this movie that I really enjoy. And this is where the series, started to come into focus. Like, it really set the template for future Bond films. Like, okay, we got it now. We got the essence of the character. And you would see more usage of the gadgets and so forth. But the plot here, the story with this one, you have our main villain, Goldfinger. He's a bullion dealer, sort of a tycoon type that, again, he deals in gold. And in the beginning, he's playing this card game and he's cheating. And you have this one girl, Jill Masterson, who's spying for Goldfinger and helping him cheat. But even before that, you have to mention the Goldfinger theme. And the singer, Shirley Bassey, did a great job with the theme. I mean, everyone remembers the theme for Goldfinger. Goldfinger, the man with the Midas touch. It's such a great song. And even the pre-title sequence, the way the film kicks off, where Bond, he blows up this plant, and then shortly after, gets into a fight with this one guy, he throws him in the bathtub, and like he kicks his heater into the bathtub and the guy fries. And so yeah, a little fun, a little opening to kick off the movie. But again, getting back to the plot, again, Goldfinger, he's cheating in this card game in the beginning, and 007's told about this guy, and 007 starts messing with Goldfinger, making him lose money. But you find out later with Goldfinger that he's getting ready to launch this operation called Operation Grand Slam, where he wants to raid Fort Knox and obliterate the world economy. And you throw in the manservant who works for Goldfinger, odd job. He's a mute manservant who has the lethal hat with the metal ring around it. You have the character of Pussy Galore, who is Goldfinger's personal pilot and her flying circus. And then later on, you would have a little romance between, Bond and, Pussy Galore. But it's complicated because, of her involvement with Goldfinger. So it's up to Bond to stop Goldfinger and to stop his plan. And that's kind of the plot here. But, like I said, when you talk about Goldfinger, there's just a lot of components that really work well in this film. And, it's definitely, it's like you can see why it's considered one of the best. It is, no pun intended, one of the, like, if you want to say the gold standard of Bond movies. But, get into the cast. Again, Sean Connery does great, again, as the character James Bond. Again, he definitely brings that Connery charm to the performance. He just has that suave about him, where the ladies love him, and the guys wanted to be him, and that epitomizes Connery and the cool factor that he had. And I don't, it's just, you miss Sean Connery. He had that again. He had that cool factor about him, whether if it was playing Bond or, later on in other roles. But yeah, he's one of those actors that is irreplaceable, and there'll never be another Connery. Um, you also have the character of Pussy Galore, again, who is the personal pilot for Goldfinger, and you have her flying circus in the film. And Pussy Galore is played by Honor Blackman. Now, at the time, I believe she was working on the Avengers TV show, and she had quit that to work on this movie. And at the time, the censors were on the producers for the name. They thought it was too suggestive. So they thought, why not make it Kitty Galore? I think that's the name they thought about. Change it to Kitty Galore. But, yeah, Pussy Galore is a much better name. But yeah, I mean, even the way that they introduced the character where, Connery's on the plane and he's waking up and he's like, I must be dreaming. They're talking to Pussy Galore. And again, Bond is using that charm, trying to win her over, but, she's telling off Bond and kind of being tough. But the Pussy Galore character, again, she was a good Bond girl. I would say, to be honest with you, the next one, Domino and Thunderball, I would say she's more my favorite. Basically because, the actress they got for that character was gorgeous. But I still like the Pussy Galore character. She's a memorable character, a memorable Bond girl. But yeah, I mean, Honor Blackman, I think later on, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, I think she said something about, how Connery was hard to work with, or, maybe somebody out there can elaborate more on that. But again, Honor Blackman did a great job as that character. And you have the main villain, Goldfinger, who is played by, I'm going to try to get his name right, but I'm sure I'm going to fail. Gert Fröbe, who plays Goldfinger, and he was dubbed by someone else. Yes, this is right here, redubbed by Michael Collins. And again, Goldfinger, he's a wealthy type. He deals in gold, and I thought the actor did well. Of course, everybody remembers the line where, 007 is tied to this table, and you have this laser, pointing at Bond, and he's like, you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. And everyone remembers that moment in the film. Definitely a memorable line, piece of dialogue. But again, Goldfinger is a great villain. So that's 3 for 3. I mean, you had Dr. No in the first movie, you had Grant, and From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger. So again, great villain, memorable villain. But I think what a lot of people to remember about this movie is the character of Oddjob, who is the manservant for Goldfinger, and again, he's a mute villain, but strong. I mean, he has the lethal hat, which in the film he throws it at the statue, and he cuts the statue's head off. And there's some fun scenes in the beginning where, they're at this golf course, and Oddjob is helping Goldfinger cheat, and as they're leaving, Connery throws Oddjob a golf ball, and he crushes it to dust in his hands because he's that strong. And then later on, you would have the final fight between Bond and Oddjob at Fort Knox, which was a fun fight. And good comeuppance for the Oddjob character, where he throws his hat into the bars, gets it, stuck, and he walks over to retrieve his hat, and then Bond takes the exposed wire and, hits the bar, and then electrocutes, Oddjob. So a good comeuppance for the character. And apparently the actor that played Oddjob, he was a Olympic silver medalist, weightlifter. And the director, Guy Hamilton, had seen him on a wrestling program, and I'm looking at the info right here, and you can kind of tell because the guy is built. I mean, the odd job character. I mean, he had a good physique to him, and I liked how he was a mute character. He didn't say anything, and again, that's one of the more memorable elements of the film. A lot of people remember the villain Odd Job. So good cast. I mean, you also bring back, the character of Miss Moneypenny. You have, Q. He comes back. Desmond, Llewelyn, and this is where he provides Bond with that famous car. The Aston Martin, and it's such a cool car, and it has all these features with the car, and I'll talk more about that when I get to the gadgets and stuff. But again, just a great cast here. I mean, you have a great villain, a memorable Bond girl, and great supporting villain, and two, you have some other characters in here that is worth mentioning. Like you have the girl in the beginning that is spying for Goldfinger, the Jill Masterson character, where 007 is kind of flirting with her a little bit. But she is killed by Oddjob, and then you see that, iconic shot where, the girl is covered in gold paint, and that she dies of, skin suffocation, which I don't know. I think they tested at, like, I do remember a episode of Mythbusters where they try and to see if they could do that. Like, could someone die by skin suffocation if they were painted in gold? Whether if it's true or not, whether that could happen or not, it's still, cool for the film because it's such an iconic shot of the girl, laying there in bed and she's covered in gold paint. So again, it's iconic because a lot of people remember that scene. But you have that character, then there's a little subplot later on where her sister tries to get revenge on Goldfinger for killing her. So you have, supporting characters as well as familiar faces that come back, i.e. Moneypenny and Q. But great cast overall. And, the director, Guy Hamilton, which this guy will come back later on to direct other Bond films like Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun. And he also directed Remo Williams, which I still haven't seen. Like, that's a film that I hear people talk about all the time, but I haven't seen the film yet. And that's one film that's always going to be on my to-watch list. But, yeah, he did direct that. I thought Guy Hamilton brought a entertaining direction to the film, where, again, there's just a lot of components that really work well together in this movie. A lot of signature moments and, usage of the gadgets. You get more usage of that and, a great iconic car, great villains and locations. And I thought Guy Hamilton really, I know he was talked about coming back for the next one, Thunderball, but I think at that point, from what I understand, that he was creatively drained. So they brought back Terrence Young, who directed Dr. No and From Russia with Love. He came back to direct the Thunderball, but again, I thought Guy Hamilton really he brought some great direction here, and it's an entertaining direction, and so I give credit to Guy Hamilton, and I still want to check out Remo Williams. So, the direction is great, and talking about the gadgets, I mean, again, you have the iconic, car, which we'll see more in other Bond films, but the Aston Martin, and it was provided by Q, which has all these cool, little features. I mean, you have the bulletproof panels on the front and back. Excuse me. You have the oil slick You have the smoke screen, the machine guns, the rotating license plate, the tire slashers, and the little radar in the middle, and the famous ejector seat, where in the second act of the film, where he finds Goldfinger's plant, and this one guy, villain, well, sort of a goon, he's sitting in Bond's car, and he hits that button, and the guy flies out. I mean, he's ejected, with the ejector seat, and it was a cool little moment there. So again, pretty cool that this car has all these features, and again, this car you would see more in other Bond movies. And you throw in little gadgets. I mean, you have this little like a home and beacon. If I can talk right, that'd be nice. See what happens. This is when if I don't get enough sleep, then I can't get the words out right. If I get too much sleep, I can't get the words out right. But yeah, home and beacon, home and beacon. Okay, there you go. But yeah, he has that in the movie. He has like a little hill compartment where he can store the beacons. And again, you have to mention Oddjob and his lethal hat that he throws, and it's capable of chopping statues, and yeah, I mean, it can kill people. So again, you have more utilization of the gadgets here. And, cool locations. I mean, you have the Switzerland kind of geography, and, the mountains that you see in the movie. I guess that's Switzerland. I mean, if it was, it's pretty cool locations. I mean, to see the, geography of the mountains. And then, later on, going to Fort Knox, and then in the beginning where he's in Miami, Bond, and he's spying on Goldfinger. So, some good locations that are well used in the film. And, I was trying to think of other things to mention here, and kind of looking at, again, some of the trivia. Let's see here. I just kind of, again, just kind of looking at little side trivia here, if there's anything worth mentioning. I mean, and that's the thing about these movies, is that there's so much history with each movie that maybe that could be a separate video, because, when we're reviewing these movies, a lot of these Bond films I'm watching for the first time. So I'm really taking in these movies and giving you the casual review, if you want to say, coming from a movie review standpoint, because again, each movie has a good amount of history, especially when you get to Thunderball, because Thunderball had some legal disputes that weren't settled until years later, and maybe I'll get into a little bit of that when I talk about Thunderball. But yeah, I mean, there's so much here. And there's a lot of information with these movies that I've barely scratched the surface. So again, maybe that's something that I can save for a different video. But yeah, so like I said, this is coming from a movie review standpoint. But yeah, I'm just sort of going through, I was just looking at the trivia here. But, overall, when you talk about Goldfinger, at the end of the day, again, it's a great Bond film. Definitely, I would say, my favorite Connery Bond film. I know that might be typical. A lot of people say that it's their favorite Bond film or favorite Connery Bond film. I thought, again, there's so much going for this movie that I really enjoy, and from the cast, and memorable characters, and really great signature moments for the character, and again, it really set the template for the future of Bond and for future Bond movies. You know, great theme. You know, the Goldfinger theme is great and iconic. A lot of iconic shots. You know, the girl that her body was painted in gold. And see, even he agrees. Yeah, that's my neighbor. The guy, yeah, you deserve a golf clap, buddy. But yeah, see, I lost my train of thought because of that guy. But yeah, again, just a lot of iconic shots, from the girl being painted in gold and great villains, Goldfinger and Odd Job, um, which I almost forgot to mention. I think in that final fight, Sean Connery got hurt. I think it was like a back injury or something. But yeah, I mean, great fight between Bond and Odd Job, and yeah, so great cast and great use of some of the gadgets. Again, the cars, badass, and the pacing, the runtime of the film. I thought it went at a good pace. Entertaining direction from Guy Hamilton. Again, I thought Guy Hamilton brought some great direction here. Some really cool locations. So yeah, I mean, Goldfinger is definitely a Bond classic. And that's my review of Goldfinger. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review and stay tuned for my review of Thunderball. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you around.